Hi guys.
Hi.
So wait, we're starting with the... Okay, so what we have here, we thought we'd start with basically just like an excerpt from our blog and also an image, or like we'd show you the catalog from our first show. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Yeah, the mic is a little.
What's happening?
Do I just like not speak close to the mic? Can I just like sit here?
If you just had it close to your mouth, it would be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so I'm just going to read our about from our blog, from our website, which is szechuanbest.tumblr.com. You guys can check it out, like if you have the time and stuff. Szechuan Best is a collaborative curatorial project between Baltimore artists Max Guy and Peggy Chang, long-standing friends and roommates. The name is taken from Peggy's late family restaurant, which was in Randallstown, and it was run by her dad and her brothers from 1995 until it closed in 2007. That was the year that Peggy and I first moved to Baltimore to the 10 Micah, and 4 years later we decided to start an apartment turned salon under the same name. Okay, so this is the catalog from the first show, Salon 1, and basically we just decided to name most of the shows Salon 1, Salon 2, Salon 3, or they'd be under that premise, kind of following the tradition of salon shows. Salon just meaning room initially, and then fitting artwork into it. Alright, so the first page of the catalog reads, Szechuan Best is proud to present Salon 1 featuring works by 8 contemporary artists. The exhibition aims at channeling the spirit of Szechuan Best, co-founder Peggy Chang's family restaurant and the project's namesake. Photographs of the restaurant were not readily available for perhaps 2 weeks after the gallery's inception. We began conceiving the show based on a review from City Paper and Peggy's vague descriptions of the space's ambience. In starting the salon, Peggy identified the same ambition and sentiments that she believes her family felt when they opened their restaurant in 1995. So the intuitive manner in which we have selected and curated the show is part of an ongoing conversation between Peggy and I on the influence of our homes in our work. It is a privilege to show work from amazing people worldwide whose own stories and memories have added to the sentiment behind our inaugural show.
And can you hear me? And before I forget, this whole catalog is designed by our friend Claire Mueller. She did a really good job with it. And my excerpt reads, Baltimore is a place where a 3-star restaurant is both hard to come by and warmly welcomed. When I think about it this way, adopting the name makes a lot of sense. Szechuan Best was 12 years of my life. It was every weekend, all year. It was all we had. It was what we had instead of a vacation home. When it closed, it was another turnover of family-run business to a forgotten strip mall of Baltimore. But what it really was for me was a bittersweet goodbye of a once-achieved dream. I feel like I'm still striving to achieve that kind of peace in my life. Max and I moved into this apartment in October, and we started to find ourselves being very influenced visually and artistically by the space. We began to make art that would fit with our apartment. I think we started to have this functional intuition or sensibility towards our own work. The idea to start a salon came out of this naturally. We wanted to further colonize the way we arrange the things in our living room by doing it with art. And so these are images these are images from the art in the show. has work by John Bull and Lila Caron, Michael Carpenter, Jessica Hans, Ben Horns, Aaron Nelson, Ken Sino, and Seiichi Takezawa. And in this, for part of the show, we conducted Seiichi is
He's in Nagano, in Japan.
And we did an interview with him online, and it was translated by our friend Anna Obikane.
And actually, yeah, this show was a really great opportunity, I guess, to kind of make friends internationally and just get to know people who we've known from like around town, but also from around Baltimore, but also or like in other cities like in New York, or I guess Nagano, but never actually got the chance to speak with.
Yeah, like Seiichi was like totally blown away when we contacted him.
Yeah, he was really excited about that. The whole experience was great. Initially, I think that we were kind of responding to like the culture of house venues and house galleries and house shows here. The H&H building being like the prime example of like artist spaces, just that are also living spaces. And we wanted to be a part of that. We wanted to, besides just show work, we wanted to be friends with everybody. I think that social nature is something that's very prevalent in the art scene here. We had talked about the nature of traditional salon shows, but I don't think that we actually ended up doing that kind of like open call show for a while. We've only done one like that. Should we?
Yeah, we should say.
Okay. So we have a bunch of stuff just like opening and preview. We're going to show you documentation of the different shows and talk about our upcoming show as well.
Yeah, we had talked about how, like, with these.
Cool.
Yeah, we had talked about these house shows and how sometimes the domestic aspect of it has been like either disguised or neglected, and we wanted to just embrace it in the character of like being part of the Baltimore community and being a catalyst for like collaborative relationships and artist relationships. Like, I think in the beginning, what happened, like, one of the things that happened was like Max would document his work like in the apartment, and like the furniture or like the cat would be in his documentation. And so curating the first show was really closely linked to the inception of the project. So we chose work initially for the salon one that we thought would give a little bit of nostalgia for a place that some people had never been to.
And I think that, the first time that Peggy and I put shows like this show together, it was very telling of the way that we work collaboratively for the next year or so. I think that it varies from project to project, but the selection of artwork always kind of happens by like call and response almost. So I remember, I guess, gathering a list of like people who I'd like to, get to know and also show their work, and trying to fill in these gaps that, Peggy had a memory and I didn't have a memory of the space that she was describing. And so I guess eventually what happened was the work that I chose, the abstraction in the work, I guess, it then kind of substituted a substantial memory of the original Szechuan vest and its atmosphere. So in a sense, I'm going to go back. In a sense, pieces like this, which, they have like a very subdued palette, they have there's like a harmony to it, there's a beauty, but there's nothing necessarily recognizable. This is John Bull. This is Aaron Nelson. So I almost imagined, you know, the sort of familiar elements of, I guess, Aaron's pieces. This is kind of blurred out right now. Or can you all see this? Can you see what's going on in the photo? Okay, so you know, there are feathers here, wiffle balls, all kinds of just detritus, I guess, sculpted in and out of plaster. And I guess in talking to Erin about it, you know, she described like missing home and missing, she was in Malmo when she made all these pieces, and she had like a nostalgia or like a longing for just like trash on the street. I guess Malmo was like very clean, and so she started making these sculptures with whatever like crap that she found on the street. So in a sense, you know, the kind of abstraction that's formed there just becomes like that, like a placeholder for a memory or like a sentiment. Okay. Also, yeah, I guess that was it.
And this, for the second salon show, was created by Neil Ronaldo. He called it What is Faux? And it featured works by Colin Benjamin, Maggie David, Matt Pavich, and Megan Plunkett.
And I don't think that we had initially intended on, I guess, like taking proposals for shows or anything, but we hadn't actually really thought about it, that was interesting. I mean, working with Neil was, it was kind of curious because the way that he approached us, it was just an email, and we talked on like G-Chat a couple of times, very casual, but then the installation was incredibly particular. You know, he wanted almost everything removed from the apartment. We started out curating shows just in our apartment living room, so all the installation shots are always going to be in like a living room, whether it's Peggy's house where she lives now or the house that we lived in. As you can see, you know, he took everything out. There was a bookshelf in there, and actually the bookshelf kind of remained in another space like permanently. It was kind of a nice solution. But yeah, as you can see, this is a very sparse, kind of minimal show. And, you know, I guess I'm inclined to keep furniture in a space when I'm like installing work within it. I kind of like being able to sit on a couch, like, you know, and look at work, or sit in a chair, or do this or that. I kind of like the way that pieces become subjective to the other things that are in a room. But that's just not, that wasn't the case in this show. I think also Peggy's sensibilities kind of balance that out. You know, she'll be very specific about why you would have a certain like piece of furniture or a certain object in the space.
Yeah, and like this was such a show, was like almost no effort on our part. Like Neil did the whole thing, and he's so efficient about installing it. I think I was supposed to meet him, and like by the time I got home, everything was already set up.
Yeah.
Like he like knew everything. He knew exactly how he wanted everything. Like, and he definitely wanted to keep the room very sparse.
But yeah, that was Maggie's piece. That was like, a lot of people talked about that piece. That was like the kind of like elephant in the room or something. It's bizarre. Okay, so I guess the third show is Salon 3. As you can see, you know, MTV is kind of rotated and turned into a 3. And I like, I guess, appropriating other logos and stuff like that. Recently, we made another Szechuan Best logo that was just like the Nike skateboard logo, and then the top half of Nike was just kind of filled in, so it's a weird sort of Ellsworth Kelly abstraction kind of deal. But So I guess the idea behind this show was that I had this sort of anxiety last year about pop culture, and it's like the idea that pop culture and like mainstream music is in fact like a mirror of our society. Like I really didn't like that. I was very opposed to that idea. You know, looking back, like maybe I need to get a grip or something. But it was, you know, I guess I would listen to the radio a whole lot at work, and it just kind of depressed me. And at that time, I also was very into, I guess, researching like the history of curating and like the profession. And one of the notions that I kind of formed in my head was that curators are, like, one of the main jobs of a curator is to constantly be learning from the artist. So at that time, I guess I kind of went to Margot Malter, Devin Kenny, and Neil Ronaldo, who were the artists in Salon 3. And you know, I approached them all, asked them if they wanted to be in the show, introduced them to the other artists and everything, and decided that I would kind of learn from their appropriation or their manipulation of pop culture sort of motifs and I guess nuances. This is a piece by Devin Kenny. Devin also raps under the name Devin Kenny, like he pronounces it like he stutters. And he's put out like a number of mixtapes and albums. He's studying at UCLA right now. Let's see, is this going forward? This is all Margot's work. I mean, apart from Margot's general interest in like pop culture and you know, things like top 40 hits, I guess, she also incorporates a lot of, I guess, imagery that she, like appropriated images from the internet of like teenage, like teen girl culture, dietary habits. She was a big fan of 16 and Pregnant at the time. Like we would talk about that a whole lot. And I don't necessarily know if the work itself like always represented that in the show, but I was curious about their studio practice and just what they were making at the time. This is from a collection of Neil Ronaldo's collages and paintings. He has a binder of like hundreds of these magazine pages that he has created like certain rules for like painting over the surface of each of them or cutting certain things out. And we selected 3 from this really large book. That was nice. That was like, I felt like that was like an official kind of curatorial thing, like you know, selecting from a very specific collection and working, I guess, one-on-one at that point. This is Margot again. This kind of like hanging solution was that was all Petty. It was awesome. We had this up for like the month after Neil Ronaldo. This is Neil's, I guess, like pseudonym, is that the word for it? Like moniker. He recorded under Dr. for a while, you know, that's like drunk, as you can read. And here he explained the project. This was a letter of resignation from the music project. And he says, the mixes and soul video I created as part of the Dr. Unk's Guilty Pleasures series were never meant to be some kind of pop music antithesis. The series was an effort to synthesize seemingly polarized views of the world. It was an effort to reclaim the humanity that's frozen in popular music, encased by layer upon layer of gloss. Inversely, it also aimed to reclaim the humanity of extreme music, an example noise, that's often hidden behind clouds of willful obscurity and nihilistic coolness. And you know, in retrospect, it was a project overly tinged by distant utopian visions, spawned from a hazy Marxist impulse. It is my hope that it will be eulogized not through praise of its form, and vision, but by becoming outmoded, very deep into obscurity. May the very notion of guilty pleasures become at first a silly, trivial memory, to then be lost in the past forever, never to be found again. I don't know, I had it was kind of an awkward experience, I guess, working with Neil, but also very enlightening, I suppose. One of the terms that I was thinking about in the curating of this, and the reason, I chose like the MTV logo and kind of turned it on its side, was I was thinking about what the M in MTV means at this point, and I thought about the term mise en abîme. And mise en abîme means between two mirrors. And, I was thinking, if pop culture is a mirror of reality and a mirror of humanity, and if we're making work that, in a sense, is also a mirror of reality, then a certain kind of metaphorical mise en abîme effect occurs in the making of work that kind of references both or manipulates an understanding of mainstream. And I really respect all the artists for doing that.
And for the fourth show, there was a solo show for a really close friend of mine, Ian Kim, and she is someone who she does not identify as herself as an artist at all, which is kind of interesting. But so this is a pretty personal show for me. I really appreciate her work, and I really wanted to just motivate her to do more, to really encourage her. And so for this one, it was one where we worked really closely with the artist herself. Every decision was pretty much made with her. Her photography, it's entirely photograph. The show is all photographs, and her work is very autobiographical, and we had to select from hundreds of photos that she just had stuck in shoeboxes and whatever.
Yeah.
And so we picked out all the prints together, and she was the one who came up with the idea of using tables. And I felt like that was really appropriate given the nature of her work and really highlighting that autobiographical aspect. And also, thinking back now, it's kind of how I've always looked at her work previously, just laid out on a table.
Peggy also built those tables.
Yeah. So I built those tables, and the prints on the table are covered with plastic wrap. And funny thing is, she also works at a furniture store, so she had the plastic wrap. And the photos on the table are definitely a lot of them are really candid shots. And this is how they were shown. And they were set apart. There was a passage in between them for people to walk through, and they were the prints on the table were laid out to be facing each other, so that when you're standing in the middle, you could see both sides at the same time. And then these are some of the prints that we decided to print large and hang on the wall. And I wanted to, when we were picking these out together, I wanted to select ones that really highlighted her, her sensibilities. She does have that, even though she denies it. So many of the photos on the table are just a snapshot, and I think these have something else.
Yeah, it was kind of ironic because I remember we talked a lot about a certain aspect of sincerity, not necessarily not a naive approach, but the fact that all the pieces were autobiographical at the time, we were kind of ignorant to that that aspect of photography here amongst young photographers, and we really enjoyed the idea that I guess there was a sentimental, there was a personal aspect to this, but then we also really wanted to like highlight these kind of formal decisions. And actually, Yoon did too, I think. She was pretty particular about like the photos that were chosen. And so were you, because you knew so many of the people that were in the photos. That was like a very interesting part of the selection process. So after that, we kind of went off the deep end a little bit. This is very fun. This is Are You Ready? It was our open call show, which was a ready-made salon, and it was our first open call. It was, I guess we were working under this idea that appropriation, ready-made work, and a certain like turn for like the photographic in sculpture and in painting, and this kind of aspect of like documenting or like just having like the actual object is kind of taken for granted today. At one point, I kind of made the joke like if I had $1 for every object that somebody called art, and we charge $1 for people to submit their ready-made to this salon. And I guess what happened was, selecting one piece to bring in that like represents, I guess, a thought in your mind or a moment in time. Just the selection process almost kind of creates makes an avatar out of that piece. So this is the show.
We kind of started we started for the show. It's a little bit more complicated than what we usually do because we had people bring in the work the day of the show, the morning of, I think, and we did this kind of really streamlined cataloging process of it. So this is a installation shot of everything together, and the yellow, people would bring in a piece, and we would give it a number, and the yellow dots, if you can see them, is where we would write the number, and then we have like a corresponding sort of gallery list to go with it.
Yeah.
And then another part of that cataloging process was documenting each and every piece on its own. And I really like what Max said about the pieces being avatars, because I think that's really true. This is what Jenna Kaminsky brought in. It was a sound piece that she recorded walking through an IKEA.
This one was kind of, that was kind of difficult because we played it from my phone and I couldn't download it, so I just had to keep walking over the entire installation and would have to replay it every like 20 minutes or so. So I kind of, I don't know. I'm not going to say that was a performative aspect, that would be stupid. But.
And this is a water jug by Ace Keeper.
Yeah.
And this is a
Carrie's.
found object by Carrie.
And Carrie won, did he win second?
Place.
He won second place, yeah.
And this is what Neil Ronaldo brought in. They're Doreen's glasses.
Doreen Bolger of the BMA.
And it was really great also because a lot of people sent theirs in. Like this is something that Eleanor Farley sent to us from Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of this is a mock-up basically of the catalog that we're putting together of the work. It's missing some of the images right now, but this is what it would look like.
Yeah. Certain pieces were more like, I guess, directly biographical. Others were kind of just telling of, what somebody might consider a ready-made. Oh yeah, and also, I just wanted to add, we were kind of considering like, so following in the tradition of salons, but in specific thinking about the salon of 1917 where Duchamp's fountain was rejected. And at the time it was like, we were kind of joking about how that was a good thing, because imagine if after that every salon just had tons and tons of ready-mades. Oh, wait. No, let's show the video. Okay. So we also have a promotional video.
We have
for the
a view
salon.
of,
Where is that?
it's,
Oh, okay. So we made a couple of promotional videos. I mean, they were basically just a couple of shots taken from my iPhone one night. This is Tim. Tim is sort of the mascot of Szechuan Best. He's Peggy's cat.
he really loves ready-mades.
Yeah. He's a very inquisitive cat. I think they all are, but you know, he appreciates art a little more than the rest of them.
He goes to every show.
Yeah, he attends every show, and at one point I was trying to make work that I guess he would respond to in a certain sense, like, you know, he'd be kind of behooved to stand there and look at the work. That was a goal of mine. Oh, it's down there. So, yeah, I mean, oh no, it's right there. So the next show is, it's going to be at, this is I guess Salon 6. This is going to be at Sophia Jacob, and I mean the tentative title, or what we're thinking about, is called, it's called Vampire Travel Agency, and it's featuring work by Haley Silverman, Rachel Lowen. Oh, okay. Is that okay? Yeah. So I said Haley Silverman, Rachel Lowen, Pete Luca, Jishun Wang, Colin Van Winkle, Kat Schneider, Milano Chow, and is that it? No, B. Frenderman. Artists from, you know, from here, from New York, from Chicago, and so, wait, are you? So that's coming up July 14th, you know, as Jordan had already said, and I guess it's sort of, wait, am I? Oh yeah, I'm talking about that. Okay, so it's sort of like a spin-off or something of an idea that Peggy and I had been talking about of rather than, I guess, exhibiting a sort of biennial, or actually I guess it would be like a biennial, like a big group survey of like a time and place. We had this idea at one point to maybe find a space with multiple rooms and curate a show that would be almost like a team movie. About 2 or 3 years ago, we went to see the Greater New York show at PS1 at the MoMA, and we came back with this feeling of, I mean, there was just an amazing energy at that show. There was, like, I guess some of the things that we noted was like mass media influenced art. We kept calling the word kind of like sexy, understanding this, this like youthful like tension or energy that I guess we also identified with like the movie sets and themes of like teen movies in the 1990s. And one of the reasons for that, I think, was because PS1 is organized into different rooms, like almost like classrooms. And so when you curate a show in each different classroom, it's kind of like having a mini gallery, but also it's like having a vignette of characters, you know? So if we were to understand like the ready-mades and the ready-made shows avatars, you could potentially understand like the work created in the show as stand-ins for each of the artists in a way. So thinking about that, we wanted to curate a large group show of like, you know, Baltimore's contemporary art scene, potentially in a house space in which the work would be installed in different rooms and would form certain like vignettes between like each characteristic, or between each like piece. So thinking along those lines, we took the opportunity with our show at Sophia Jacob to create a vignette once again with installations. This is a little more literal, sort of like the set of a TV show.
Yeah, so I guess, so when you were asked for this show, we really wanted to be able to do a bigger project. The Szechuan Best project really allows us to be free in terms of what we, like how and what we want to show. But we have obvious limitations for things like space and who can actually come. And so we're just really excited to have this chance, and special thanks to Jordan, Steve, and David for letting us do it.
Yeah. So I guess, in terms of like taking advantage of the space that we've been given, like in the past, our curatorial projects have, they've been inspired by like our home decor and work interacting with that space to an extent. In this show, we designed a set for an imaginary sitcom that Peggy and I created called Vampire Travel Agency. And basically the premise of that show is, it's been like a year since Peggy and I graduated. And we're desperately seeking jobs or like some kind of profession. And so we have this idea that we're going to start a travel agency in, I guess a low rent like office space with basically with like no knowledge of how that business works. And somehow our business model only, subsequently only attracts vampires. So I guess the premise of this show is, we organize, we build an office, we've made a nice modern looking travel agency. And so the work fits within the show, not only as like a decorative aspect, but it's kind of like a push and pull, or like, straddling like the line of, I guess, television set, black comedy, and then, like a sort of like new media or like print-based show on the other side, and seeing how those things cross over, interact. So I guess what we were thinking about is, working as interdisciplinary artists today also sometimes leaves us at a loss as to how we can incorporate like a vast majority of our ideas within our means. So like, we didn't necessarily want to have like a sitcom as a show. Like, we didn't want to necessarily like curate a sitcom or curate like a set, but we at one point really wanted to make a manga of this whole like sitcom idea. But we knew that that was totally like out of our grasp at this point. And it's sort of like a creative impetus.
So with this upcoming show, we want to curate the space alongside the work and sort of mediate how each piece can be seen and interpreted in varying degrees of visual and conceptual compatibility. It's like what Max was saying, how the work in space operates on like multiple levels, like not just as props, not just as like decoration. And in that respect, it's somewhat similar to what we've been doing in these salon shows. We've been really focused on like really having some control over the space and like how we want people to experience it. And the inclusion of the invented sitcom as a theme adds like another level to that curatorial experience. So curating is presented as a medium through its comparison to other media.
And this, okay, so like this New York Post, like, awesome Photoshop job, is not entirely, I mean, I guess the whole idea is kind of like obscure or like random, like out of nowhere. But, so the pilot episode, which we wrote like a manuscript for and everything, we wrote like a whole screenplay. The pilot episode is called Dracula. And basically, our special guest in the first episode would be Drake. He's turned into a vampire, and we have to get him to Canada as travel agents. So that's where this comes from. Um, so, I mean, that about wraps it up, but if you guys have any questions, you know. Okay,
Everyone should come to the opening on July 14th.
yeah, it's gonna be really great.